FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
But of course, words only go so far, and what we really need is actions. And the second, and I think even more important step, is that we need to begin the process of disaggregating this undifferentiated enemy. These are not the same group. Hamas and Hezbollah and the Muslim Brotherhood and al-Qaeda and the Taliban and the Kashmiri militants and the nation state of Iran and Syria, these are vastly different things, and they require vastly different responses. For a group like al-Qaeda, as I said, there is just one response, and it's the military response. It's the police response. These are not people that can be negotiated with because they don't want anything. They're not fighting a real war. They're fighting a war of the imagination. And there is only one response to them. They have to be hunted down, they have to be destroyed, or they have to be brought to justice. But that's just the tiniest part of this various kind of cornucopia of militant groups around the world. And in fact, those groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and the Muslim Brotherhood, the so-called Islamists as opposed to the Jihadists, in many ways can represent the real answer to the real global security that is at stake at the hands of these jihadist groups. Because in a sense, nationalism, even religious nationalism, can become an antidote to these transnational movements, can become a foil to these transnational movements. If you're an organization that is willing to put your guns down and pick up a ballot and take part in the political process, fabulous. That we have to absolutely encourage that. We have to make it happen. It's hard to say these words in Berkeley, California, but George Bush was right. Democracy, turns out, is the answer. Political participation does have the power to moderate radical tendencies. It has proven it over and over again, from Algeria to Morocco to Indonesia to Malaysia to Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood itself is a perfect example. Hezbollah is a perfect example. Whatever you want to say about Hezbollah, it is now by far the most dynamic and most successful political party in Lebanon. It's going to do very well in the coming elections, and as it should. Because in a democracy, if you clean the streets, if you build hospitals, if you feed the poor, if you actually give out educational scholarships, you deserve votes. And that's what they've done. And you look at a country like Turkey. I mean, the Justice and Development Party that I was just talking about, that has brought Turkey closer to Israel and to the EU and to the United States, that has made Turkey a greater democracy than it has ever been, was a decade ago a banned Islamist group. And when they were given the opportunity to take part in the political process, not only did they moderate their ideology, they've proven themselves to be the single most democratic force that country has ever seen. So it is a fact that by encouraging these Islamist groups to actually take part in the political process, by giving them the responsibility of having to keep the lights on, pay the civil servants, that ideology tends to sort of go by the wayside. This is true even of Hamas, because whatever you want to say about Hamas, its terrorist tactics, its ideology, its sort of grotesque view of the Israelis, it is a far less radical movement today, even today after what it suffered over the last year, than it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So in a sense, we have to actually have the nerve to support these Islamist groups if they're willing to take part in the political process, because Islamism can become the foil to jihadism. And the final thing, which I think is also very important, is that, we have to recognize that although the grievances that fuel these movements around the world, these very real grievances that I was talking about. Although for al-Qaeda and these cosmic warriors, they're not real grievances. They're not issues to be addressed. They're more than anything else just sort of symbols to rally around. They are nevertheless legitimate grievances, and they have to be addressed as such. The Palestinians are actually suffering. We really do support Arab dictators. There really is a lack of economic and political and social development in that region. We actually do treat that region like a gas station. We do. Until we actually figure out a way to address these fundamental grievances, then these movements will always exist, because these grievances are what give fuel and sustenance to the cosmic impulse.